Good afternoon. All right, hey, let's get started, everybody. Welcome. I can't believe Susan let us get a late start. She's usually the taskmaster, but thank you all for being here. Welcome to our latest Recovery Court graduation. So, thank you. As we close out this year, I would say this is our 10th year in existence. We're going to have our 11th birthday next month, and this program has been around again for 10 years now, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of it since its inception. And the reason for that is because we really get to see the changes and the transformations that occur, and we get to work with people that are really working hard to restore their lives, make their lives manageable again, restore self-confidence, independence, and self-esteem. And you're going to see that on full display today. For those of you that, exactly, little man, he's clapping, good job. For those of you that may not be familiar with our Recovery Court program, I gotta tell you, it is probably the toughest form of probation that there is. There's no way around it. This program is tough. And we put a lot of requirements on our clients' plates. This program lasts approximately 15 to 18 months. It's a 5-phase program. By the time someone graduates the program, they have been to court for hearings dozens of times. They have spent hundreds of hours in group and individual therapies. They have tested for the presence of alcohol and drugs at least dozens of times. This program is tough, and so we hold these graduation ceremonies to recognize the accomplishments of our graduates, because it really is quite an accomplishment. This is really a watershed moment, so to speak, for our graduates. So, a little bit about what we have in store for this afternoon. I'm going to be wrapping up my opening comments here shortly. We have we're very excited to have our guest speaker come up in just a couple of minutes and tell you a little bit about her journey. And then we will get to our phase promotions and our graduates, and we'll hear from our graduates. And then after that, I am contractually obligated to remind you that, first of all, you can feel free, families, loved ones, friends, take pictures with the graduates if you wish. We also have cake upstairs, right? Okay, so remember, there's cake upstairs after this is all done. But enough about that. Let's get on with the program. So, our guest speaker today is Jacqueline Buffington. Hang on. Jacqueline is a graduate of this program. She started around September of 2015, if I recall correctly, and graduated December of 2016. So again, she was in the program for a little over a year, and she was an absolute rock star, and she did really well, and she graduated, wow, 6 years ago, right? And one of the things that we love about Jacqueline is she's actually stayed connected. Even though she's managing her life and she's doing great, she stops in from time to time to say hello. When she comes into our hearings on Monday mornings in Bullhead City, she always has a very supportive or kind word to say for our clients. Some of them new to the program may be struggling, but she really sets the example. And we are just really privileged to have her here today. Jacqueline, please come on up.
Hi. Sorry. My sobriety date is November 18th, 2015. I want to give a full disclosure. I am terrified of public speaking, but when I got the call from Susan at probation, there was no way I could say no. This graduation feels like a full circle for me because, as Judge Williams said, it's been almost 6 years. In about 10 more days, it'll be 6 years since I graduated. And this graduation's being held in Kingman, which is where my past is. I am still an active participant in Alcoholics Anonymous. Every day, I always carry around with me my most recent chip, as well as my last 24-hour chip. This is a reminder that it doesn't matter how much time I have, I always have just today. If I don't stay sober and clean today, then everything I've accomplished and how far I've come just gets thrown out the window. If I'm not consistent in my recovery, mindful of my thoughts and my actions, I can, again, throw it all away. I pray that my story impacts at least one person in this room today. In October of 2014, I was placed on probation, but not for any drug charges. I was not obligated to test, so I continued using and drinking. In May, the following year, a DCS case was opened up against me, and I lost temporary custody of my son. I was fortunate enough that my mother and my stepfather were able to take custody of my son. But for about a month, I was stuck in a mindset of, poor me, they took my kid. I was stuck in a victim mentality, and I kind of just went all out. I don't know how I made it through that month, but I did. One morning, I woke up and I realized what I was doing was getting me nowhere closer to getting my son back. During this time, probation did not know, had learned about what had happened. I was not keeping them informed. They issued a warrant for my arrest and a petition to revoke my probation. That day I woke up realizing what I was doing wasn't helping me or my son. I went down to probation and I turned myself in. While I was in jail, I reached out to my probation officer and I told her I needed to go to a sober living home. I needed help and I knew I couldn't do it on my own. I realized that I can't take care of my son if I can't take care of myself. My son is my world, but when drugs and alcohol are in the picture, it just all gets phased and fuzzy for me. When I was released from jail, I was released to go to the Blossom House in Bullhead City. I started drug court about a month after, and it was really overwhelming for me because I had all these obligations to hold on to. I had stuff to do for drug court, probation, DCS. I had WestCare I had to take care of, Mojave Mental Health, drug testing, getting a job, and custody for my son. So I was constantly in the beginning very stressed out. I had to, sometimes one day at a time wasn't enough for me. It had to be a task at a time, a minute at a time, a second at a time. It didn't take me too long after I got here to go back out again. I relapsed with alcohol, which was a major thing for me because I didn't see myself as an alcoholic. Alcohol was always there, but I always went out of my way for drugs. And when I went back out and I drank, I realized that it didn't matter if it's drugs, alcohol, anything, I will take it and I'll run with it as long as I get the chance. I had to get serious with myself and realize that I have to do this for me before I do this for anything else, like getting custody of my son back. Because at first, my focus was, hey, I just need to do what I need to do, get everyone off my back, get my kid. I realized that I had a habit of self-sabotaging. I was so afraid of gaining success and throwing it away once I achieved success that I would just self-sabotage myself before I even got there. It was once I started being real with myself and actually working on it, it got a little easier because I was being honest with myself and I was being honest with everyone around me in the programs that I was obligated to. After about a year and 2 months, I got custody of my son back, with the case officially closing 2 months later, but at least he was home with me. I graduated drug court again in December of 2016, And I continued going to meetings and working on my recovery. Just because I wasn't in drug court anymore, I still wanted this life that I was starting to build for myself. I didn't get off of probation until February of 2018, but I had no further incidents after graduating and after that last slip up I had. So in February of 2018, I still continued working on my recovery. As Judge Williams said, I like to go in and stop by drug court every once in a while on my lunch break. I only get an hour for lunch, so I tend to usually show up closer to 11 because I know that's when the smaller phases are coming up and about to start. And I always like to be there to hand out my phone number or just talk to anyone who's willing to talk to me. I have no shame in my story today because I know how far I've come. I will sit down and talk to you, anyone who will listen to me about everything that's happened in my past, because that's me. And I'm an amazing person today. I'm not a piece of crap mom anymore. I'm not that daughter that threw away the love and the affection and all the opportunities I had. Recovery today is still hard. It's not all rainbows and butterflies every day. I still have problems that come up. I still have issues. But the difference today is I have tools and skills that I know how to handle these situations. The hardest time that I've had so far since being in recovery is in 2020, when I got the call that my mom tested positive for COVID and her oxygen levels had dropped so low. Sorry. This was still so new. COVID was still so new and unknown and scary. And I didn't know if I was going to lose my mom. My first thought getting off of that call was, I need to get high. I can't deal with this. And at this point, I already have years of sobriety, but that's how quick and how easy it is to go right back. I was mindful of that thought that crossed my mind to where I immediately changed my thinking, and I had to change it and say, I'll be damned if I have to tell my mom when she gets through this, that this is what took me out. And I immediately called someone else in the program, and I went and sat with her for a couple hours and talked it out with her. And my mom made it through. My mom came back out, and I did not have to tell her that this is what took me out. And she's sitting here today, crying her eyes out. Today, I am grateful for the drug court program, for AA, NA, probation, West Care, DCS, and everyone else who entered recovery before me. I owe them all my life. Today, I'm an active participant in my life, my son's life, and my recovery. I am blessed that my son does not know that lifestyle. He was still so young when I got in this program, he has no memories of it. He sees TV shows or movies where, families drinking around kids or, whatever's going on, and he's thinking, what's going on here? Why are they doing that? Because that's not a way of life for him. And I'm grateful for that because he gets to see a different way of life. He attends meetings with me. He knows the prayers. He likes to pray on chips when they're being passed around. And I'm no longer the person who goes and hides in my bathroom or in my room, getting that next high or taking that next drink. Today I get to show up. I get to be a part of. To my knowledge, I am the only person left in recovery that was in the sober living home at the same time I was, other than my mom, my house mom. I don't necessarily put her in the same category as me because she was our house mom, so she wasn't an actual, you know what I mean? Like, she was there, but she wasn't there. I've lost a lot of friends from overdose, going back to prison, or just disappearing altogether. Seeing these patterns with my friends has not only hurt me, but it's also shown me how easy it is to go right back to where I was 7 years ago. It also instills in me the determination to continue to grow in my recovery. I always try to be vigilant when being mindful of my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. I do not hold grudges. I'm not perfect, so there's times where I catch myself, slipping in areas here or there, but that's what the 10th step does for me. I stay close to other people's in recovery. I attend meetings. I volunteer for different service commitments. I help others, and I'm willing to hand my number out to anyone who asks. Thank you. Occasionally, I stop by drug court to offer my experience, strength, and hope. I'm glad to tell anyone who listens my story. I want to say a big congratulations to all the graduates today. This is a big deal. And this isn't the end of the road for you if you don't choose it to be. This is just a chapter in your recovery. I hope that something you've learned or something you've heard throughout this process keeps you coming back and keeps you in the program. Because life today is 1,000 times better than life ever was then, even on my worst day. I'm a miracle, and if anyone's sitting in this room and working on their recovery, you guys are a miracle too. I'm going to end with a quote from a friend that offered me so much hope throughout my recovery. You can't argue with a transformed life.
Jacqueline, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you also for overcoming fear of public speaking and giving just a great address to everyone. Thank you. Appreciate it. So we're about to hand out some phase promotions for Bullhead City, and this goes for all the phase promotions in all 3 cities. Just to let you know, again, this is a 5-phase program, and so every time a client moves from one phase to the other, they get a certificate of achievement. And most of these are planned. There may be a couple of surprise promotions also. I will say this, every once in a while, somebody walks out of here a little bit disappointed. Why didn't I get promoted? Hang in there, okay? Even though today may not be your day, hang in there. Your time will come when it's ready, when it's appropriate to do so. I also want to point out in very general terms, there's a couple of people receiving promotions today that are on what we call a termination contract or a last chance contract. And that usually means by the time someone gets placed on a contract like that, well, what it means is if they have any one single violation of probation or recovery court rules, they're out of the program. So it's pretty serious stuff. And by the time somebody is on a termination contract, usually it means that there's been a series of mishaps that led to that point. But it's a rule in our program that once somebody phases up, we tear up that contract. So this day has a little extra meaning for a couple of our people phasing up, because when they phase up, they are no longer on the termination contract. And by the way, you know who you are, okay? I don't expect your lives to change any, all right? You should be behaving and acting the same way tomorrow as you did today, okay? But it's, again, an accomplishment. So I need my glasses. And for our Bullhead City phase promotions, you are not required or authorized to give speeches, by the way, but you'll come on up and receive these certificates, please. Moving from phase 1 to phase 2, Bianca Cisneros. All right, now this is a little bit weird because, believe it or not, in Bullhead City, we have 2 clients with the same names. And the only way to tell them apart, they're brothers, and I'll let them decide who's the better looking and so forth. But we have their middle initial, which tells them apart. So moving from phase 1 to phase 2, Matthew D. Lawson. Moving from phase 2 to phase 3, Amber Gao. And moving from phase 2 to phase 3, Jesus Pau Aguilar. Now on to our Bullhead City graduates, and I guess before we hear from them, to explain kind of what everyone's receiving when they graduate. Every graduate gets a certificate of graduation, of course. Also, a very special coin that we hope you will keep and cherish, designed by Chief Alan Palomino, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a pretty weighty coin, and it's pretty cool. It's got the court seal on the front, and then on the back it says, "I now have the tools, strength, and ability to overcome all challenges." And you also get a Fitbit, too. So, I know, right? And a what? And a gift card, of course, with your certificate. So our first graduate from Bullhead City is Haley Bell. I know. She said that is the worst picture when she came up here. Some people, this gets mixed reviews, and the intent of the before and after picture is not to embarrass or shame anyone. It's to really just kind of show the progress, right? So my apologies if, okay, good deal. I'm going to step off now and let Haley say a few words.
Wow, I'm super nervous. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Haley Bell, and I am a recovering addict. My story starts at the young age of 12 years old in May of 2005. My parents made a decision that we pack our entire lives and move from a small town in Oregon to Bullhead City, Arizona. For myself, this was devastating. I was just starting middle school, my brother and 2 older sisters were not moving with us, and I didn't know when I'd ever see them again. Being the new kid in school is hard, but desperate to fit in, I would do anything to try and recreate the relationships I had at home, even if it meant taking antidepressants that were not my prescription, drinking alcohol, and smoking cigarettes. Fast forward a year, I ended up on probation at the age of 13 years old for being under the influence of Xanax at Bullhead City Junior High. I was expelled and sent to a charter school. I completed 9 months of probation and moved to Fort Mojave, Arizona, once again, the new kid at school. Not long after making new friends, I was participating in illegal activities, ditching school, getting drunk, and partying. It didn't take me long to find a boyfriend, to whom of which I got pregnant with at the young age of 15. To no surprise, the relationship was not sufficient enough to provide for a newborn. My parents sent me off to live in Oregon with my older sister to have my daughter there. I stayed clean my whole pregnancy and for 3 years after my pregnancy, but I eventually got addicted to prescription pain meds and drinking, which led to an opiate and methamphetamine addiction. My life was getting out of control. I managed to get clean on my own. In this process, I met my boyfriend of 5 years, who I got pregnant to have my second child with. This time I was 23. We bought our very first home and started a family-owned air conditioning business. It couldn't have been a more appropriate time to start a family. As my son began to approach his second birthday, addiction did what it does best and snuck its way into my household. Things began to spiral out of control, and I lost everything: the house, the kids, and at the time, the love of my life. Instead of trying to unbury myself in this hole, I did what at the time my addictive mindset considered logic and began to IV use meth. This led me to jail for 120 days, the loss of my parental rights to my 2 beautiful children, and a qualified client for the Mojave County Recovery Court Program. I checked myself in an inpatient program at Revive Behavioral Health in Bullhead. It was just what I needed to help set me on the road to recovery. Today, I am 20 months free and clean of any mind-altering substances. I have managed to hold a reliable job and save enough money to buy a car. With months of proving myself worthy, my parents who adopted my children have trusted me to have them every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of every week. I am completely involved in their home and school life and am enjoying the experience of getting to co-parent with my wonderful parents. None of this would have been possible without my support team. Judge Williams and the Recovery Court team, thank you. Revive Behavioral Health, thank you. And Bridget Berry, thank you for believing in me, supporting me, and giving me a safe place to call home. I couldn't have become the person I am today without you.
Okay. First of all, here is your certificate of completion of the Recovery Court program along with a gift card. And I think we're supposed to. And your parting gifts. Those are for you as well. Good job. Thank you. I've said a few times that, everyone has a different journey, a different story, and by the time they come to our program, a whole host of different sort of traumas and experiences that they have to deal with and reconcile. And what I remember about Haley joining the program was feeling actually pretty impressed, because I think her first day in the program, I was hearing about how she had actually taken a tour already of Revive, or was planning on taking a tour, and she seemed really motivated for that and seemed to really recognize that she needed that for a bit of a reset in her life. And so I thought, wow, this is real dedication, because let's face it, as you know, a lot of people generally don't relish the thought of going to a residential setting and being away from the comforts of home and family and friends. But she was motivated to do it, and she stuck with that motivation throughout the program. So great job. Congratulations. I'm going to transition and talk first a little bit about our next graduate. I first met our next graduate not in recovery court, but in dependency court. There was a dependency case that had been opened up, and her case was in front of me. And I vividly remember Maddie being in court, and I remember pleading with her, almost begging her to get engaged in services. And she sat there, like many other parents, unfortunately, who are suffering from addiction, with no life in her eyes. None. The light was out. And she would just sort of nodded, okay. And then we'd have another hearing a few months later, nothing. And it was sad and a little frustrating, but mostly just sad. And so that's kind of around the time I think that Maddie was placed on probation and entered the recovery court program. And it was rough going at first, but when you see and hear Maddie today, again, the transformation is just phenomenal. She has taken control of her life and is, well, I would say nothing can stop her at this point. But Maddie, come on up.
I'm nervous. Hi, my name is Maddie, and I am an addict. I started using when I was younger, weed, and stood my ground with the harder stuff. I wouldn't touch it. It wasn't until my marriage started to fall apart and I lost my job at a doctor's office that I'd ever seen meth. My husband started using while I was pregnant and started bringing those not so good people around. After having my son, I ended up kicking my husband out due to him not being able to stop using. At that time, I didn't understand what addiction was. I didn't understand how my best friend couldn't get clean for our son. Due to the stress of kicking him out and having a newborn baby, I had stopped being able to breastfeed. That's when I felt I was at my lowest. I had one of those not so good friends come by and offer me some meth. That was the first time I had ever really tried it. I had started to feel and see my life start to fall apart because I was hooked. After that, I started doing heroin. Then I fell in love. I started to notice even more of a downfall. I then started to let anybody and everybody who used come over and get high. I then again felt that darkness. I've also had a lot of police contact in my darkness. I've had my house flashbanged. I've had warrant sweeps. I've also had my house raided. Before my house got raided, my son was removed by DCS. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is it. But it still didn't stop me. I was still in denial. I still didn't want to give up on the drug life. It wasn't until my house was raided and I went to jail that I realized that I had to do something to change. Once out of jail, I realized I didn't really want to give up. I got put on probation and put into drug court. I then tried to manipulate the system, and as Judge Williams said before, he pretty much told me that I was a manipulative liar and was going to lose my son. That was hard to hear, not realizing that I couldn't manipulate the system. At the same time, talking to the team, Chris from Revive told me that I was going to need 365 days of rehab, and that still probably wouldn't change me. I then got sanctioned to jail for 4 days, and then I came back and they sent me to rehab. I pleaded to go to Revive. So if it wasn't for those two men to tell me the things I needed to hear, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. When I went into treatment, I told myself that I was going to go in with the mindset of this was my only shot. I knew that I was going to lose my son if I did not try my hardest. When at Revive, I found out what higher power was. My counselor kept telling me about a higher power, and I didn't understand what she meant. I did not want to talk about the higher power. I did not want to talk about God. We were not on talking terms. But my first week there, I got a letter stating that DCS was not only transferring my case to reunification, but they weren't going to take away my rights. That made me feel really good. I now have my son back, and next week we'll have my DCS case closed. My clean date is June 21st, 2021. If it wasn't for Revive and the drug court team, I wouldn't be standing here today and have all the accomplishments I have. Thank you.
This for you as well. Nicely done. Thank you. Maddie, thank you so much. Well done. And let's move on, shall we, to our Lake Havasu promotions. Promoting, moving from phase 3 to phase 4, Braylon Anderson. This may be one of the surprise ones, but when you think about it, it should really come as no surprise. Moving from phase 4 to phase 5, Garrett Prose. job. And there are no graduates from Lake Havasu today, but I can all but guarantee there's going to be at least 2 next time we meet, which should be in May, maybe early June. So moving to Kingman. You know, I've been presiding over like all 3 cities' recovery courts for a year now, and I can say there's something about Kingman. This goes for the clients and the team members. They just have an attitude, right? But there's just something really unique about Kingman. But anyway, I say that from a place of love and care, okay? So with our phase promotions, moving from phase 2 to phase 3, Leonard Hopper. Job. Wait, this can't be right. Moving from phase 2 to phase 3, John Keeney. Michael Keeney. Michael Keeney. Sorry. That was a huge slip on my part. Bad judge. Sorry. You look great. Congratulations. Good job. Michael. Moving from phase 3 to phase 4, Michael Webb. And the last of the phase promotions, moving from phase 4 to phase 5, Amber Carey. This seems like a really good time to point out an esteemed guest and former cohort of mine in the recovery court business. Judge Eric Gordon is here. Thank you for joining us. And the reason now is a good time to point him out is because our next graduate, who will be coming up in just a moment, is Christopher Hopper. Are you complaining?
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I was going to add, I started working with Christopher about a year ago. It was November of last year. And by that time, he had really kind of hit his stride and he was doing well. And I think that most of the headaches that Christopher caused the recovery court team were the burden of Judge Gordon. And so again, by the time I took over the program, it was pretty easy working with this guy. But he certainly earned it. 18 long months? All right, he's earned it. Let's hear from Christopher.
Sorry, guys, it's a little long. So it began coming out of prison. I walked out of the prison high, and of course I went in high. Then what I thought was fun started to not be so fun. I was angry because I told myself I'd get right in prison for my kids. And all that did was make things worse. sitting in prison high, trying to play the part, staying up all night, working on people's TVs, watching TV, hardly eating, buying more drugs than I ever have had. And for what? It wasn't fun, just that is what I knew. Was depressed, lost, scared. And then 3 years later was the worst. I stepped out into a world that in 3 years changed drastically. Paroled to a home where the love was gone because the things I did before prison, lying, cheating, bullshitting myself. And because I was high, I lied about drugs to whomever was in the room. Getting high with you, then I wasn't a drug addict because I thought I was maintaining. Had a job from my old employer. Same job that I had before I went to prison, just at another site, which was a diesel repair shop. Let me tell you what that wasn't no good, because I couldn't even go to work without scoring, because something told me I couldn't go without. Let me tell you, if you think you honestly do drugs and think you are a functioning addict, you're probably oblivious to what has a hold on you, which is sadly a big population of people. And now it's getting worse. I've lost more friends to drugs than car accidents, natural death, even cancer, which is sad because either they overdosed or got shot because drugs had a part to play in it. Back to what I was saying. So I get out of prison, parole going good. Then my boss of 8 years catches on that I'm starting to be late, looking skinny, and of course I tell him problems at home just to buy more time to try to kick the shit. Then problems at work is what I began to tell my kid's mother because I was angry because something had a hold on me. What this thing, and why did it choose it over spending time with my kids and people who cared? Then it got super bad. Fights became regular. Contact with cops seemed okay and seemed like the thing to do. If they caught me, usually ran and got away. Well, that lasts only so long because it finally caught up to me. One day I get into a fight with my kid's mother and destroy the house to get in and take control of whatever I wanted. Guess what? That got me my first drug charge. And it's okay because this was where I started to not care at all. But it wasn't okay. I was mad, angry, pissed out of prison 3 months, and guess what? Picked up 18 felonies on one charge. My remaining time, which was less than a month in prison, to get out to go to my mom's to stay with. And I couldn't sit still, sleep, nothing. Found dope in the smallest town. How, why, I don't know. But I did. Then it was like I didn't stop. Lied to the one person I never thought I would, my own mother. I stayed up, she caught on. Then I left to go to Kingman, where I knew everyone to fight a case. Where everyone to fight a case high. Got 4 years probation and time served. Then it got worse. Moved to a house with no electric, no water, nothing, but thought I was king dingling. But guess what? This drug had its claws at my throat, and I was shooting at people, chasing them with machetes. I was endless what I would do if you crossed my path. Negative, I avoided my family, kids, everything. Work, all to run drugs because that was my life. Only thing that mattered was my meth pipe and make sure it was full. I lived 1 block away from my kids and avoided the house at all costs. Went there to shower, eat if I was that hungry. Shower once every 2 weeks if I was lucky. And did I care? No. I was dirty? Nope, because I care only about one thing, and that was the drug that had a hold on me. I went to houses you would gag if you walked and opened the door. Thought it was okay. So I'm riding my dirt bike, making a drop, and I lost my pack of cigarettes, which is okay, because that pack of cigarettes saved me 12 years in prison. Let me explain this. So I was going to retrieve those cigarettes when I was coming down the street. Cop sees me and lights me up, and I ignored the lights. I didn't care, and I proceeded till I found my pack of cigarettes. I lost, and guess what? I finally got home, stepped out the bike, and the cop had his gun drawn on me, tells me not to move or he will proceed to take whatever measures needed. I laughed at him and said, "You're overreacting," and went into handcuffs willingly, not thinking about drugs I had in my pocket. Then he searched me and pulls out the lottery ticket I had. Violated my probation, which I wasn't taking serious. Then I remember like it was yesterday, Megan DeBaca calling me on the bat phone in jail. And she said, "You promised me you wouldn't mess this up." And I said, "I know, I apologize." Then she said, "I have a proposition for you." And I was all ears, already messed up. So what could this probation officer really have to say? Then she tells me, "I can help you one more time, but you're already broke promise." I listened. She said, "Take 12 years in prison or probably longer." So I listened. The other option, drug court. I asked what this is, and she told me a program that helps drug users. So I agreed, and I got out, was out there 3 days, and right back into the meth world. Hide from Megan, then then she calls and tells me I need to screen for drug court. So I met with Kelly. She assigns me a drug court drug test. I lied to her. I lied, told her I don't do drugs, agreed to go test. Guess what I never did? Tried playing the system, which made her mad. But this thing had a hold on me again. I go test and think I'm good, but I smoked enough to get half a Kingman high. So failed that test. So then that's where it began with Judge Gordon, Shelly, Tim, Nikki at Southwest. I start the program high. I was late to classes, court, any obligations I had to better myself, show up to class and wasn't present. I would stare out Southwest window and played their game till I was done and instantly go get high. The sanctions came, jail every weekend for 6 months until I got tired. I wasn't learning. Last sanction was 7 days in jail. Got out. Guess what I did after 7 days in jail? Right back to the house where I felt comfortable. Got high and was last hit I took from this monster that had a hold on me. I fought whatever demons I needed to. I was ordered by judge to go to the sober living. So that night I went after telling myself, just run, run, run. You got away with it last time. And the sad part was that drug had such a hold on me. It was telling me to run, give up, run until they catch you. Serve 12 years, it's okay. Then something clicked and choked whatever was clouding my judgment. I was in control. I surrendered and I went to sober living, left all my belongings, which the vultures stole, 7 Harleys, 20 cars, house, clothes, but you know what? Keep it, because all those things ain't worth my happiness I have today. Imagine this, I'm clean, I have a job, I have whatever I want, I can get pulled over and not run from the cops. I have people if I need, something will show up and not some who will show up and not ask because I am clean and I see my kids more than I have ever. Thought I'd say this, but I completed this program. I'm still clean and I still have people and have had people I was getting high with get clean too, because they say if I can do it, they can. Shelly at Southwest says she wants me on her payroll because I'm a inspiration. My kids see a role model now instead of a lost soul. Moral of all this is if you need help, there is programs, amazing programs to help you. And this program saved my life, made me a better person, and saved me from something so evil I was willing to give up on my kids. And I couldn't thank this program enough for helping, teaching me and showing me how to live without drugs. Time for new shit. Believe in yourself.
Nicely done, sir. Yep. And coin. Thank you. What I've appreciated about observing Christopher's journey is that, you know, every staffing, it's kind of the same story from Shelly. Christopher's here. He's here all the time, even when he's not required to be here. And it's kind of a lesson of you stick with what works, right? And that works for him. And it's a good reset for him, especially if he's having a tough day or something like that. And the other thing that I think about with Christopher is, like it or not, you are all role models to somebody, whether it's your kid, whether it's someone else that's just watching how you navigate the world, someone in IOP or in recovery court. And it's up to you whether or not you want to be a good example or a bad example, right? And what Christopher does is he, again, kind of sets the standard and sets an example for others, and we just really appreciate it. So he's helping not only his own recovery, but other people in recovery. So, our last graduate, the Wolf, that by the way is the Wolf Pack, if you haven't heard of it. Kind of a similar journey here. I was thinking about, like with Jessica and with Maddie, sometimes the beauty of having 3 programs in 3 cities is we can strongly suggest or order people to move, people, places, and things, right? And sometimes people struggle in their current environment, and so we will tell people like Jessica or Maddie, hey, have you visited Kingman lately? What do you think? And they move, and believe it or not, they start to gain traction in their recovery because sometimes a change of scenery helps. And so Jessica started in the Bullhead program, is ending in the Kingman program. And again, this is just another one of those cases where I think back from Jessica from day one to now, and the transformation has just been amazing. So Jessica, come on up. Hi, thanks for coming.
Hi, my name is Jessica and I don't know where to start. So here it goes. I was born in a life of addiction. Both my parents were addicts. Parents divorced when I was very young. Mom couldn't handle her addiction. It took over. Always at the bar, smoking weed and doing meth, which left me to get me and my younger sister off to school. We eventually started running amok. I ended up moving in with my grandma, my older sister, and her boyfriend, too. I was 15. I ended up trying meth when I was in freshman year. I secretly was sleeping with my cousin boyfriend, who was 22 at the time. I was 15. We hid it for 2 years. He ended up leaving her to be with me. Before I knew it, we were in the woods making meth, supplying the whole town. I got pretty bad. I ended up telling my grandma everything. We called rehab. There was a long waiting list, so I ended up going to Job Corps. I relapsed a couple times, and when I came home to visit, I got my CNA license but did not graduate. They tossed up our dorms and I was caught with marijuana. I came back to my grandma's, got a job at a local nursing home, but was still smoking so much meth before I'd go in. A few months later, my grandma was hit by a drunk driver and died. I lost it. I ended up leaving the state. I started working for a traveling magazine company. Talk about a party on wheels. Different state every other week. I experimented with a lot of drugs, from heroin to Thiz. Did that for about 2.5 years. Are you hiding? I ended up pregnant with my oldest. Her dad and I moved back to Missouri. I got sober and had my oldest. We ended up moving to Arizona in 2007. I worked at a local nursing home, had 2 more daughters. Me and their dad ended up splitting up. Fast forward to 2018. I was sober for 11 years. Relapsed a couple days after my mom's passed away. I moved to Glendale the following March. I worked at a local respiratory unit in Scottsdale. I was a weekend warrior. My boyfriend at the time had snapped, called the police saying that there was a bomb in our car. He had a warrant out for having road rage, which led to my daughters being shot at. It took him to Maricopa County. I didn't have a babysitter. I ended up losing everything. The moment I realized I needed help is when I had to get my youngest daughter a bath behind Fry's, using a jug of water. I started bawling like a baby. I sucked up my pride and called their dad. He let me move in with him and his girlfriend. Things went bad real quick. He ended up kicking me out. I got arrested shortly after. I was put on probation, but was too high to care. I ended up running from the law. I finally got arrested and went to jail for 57 days. I got out, went back to the streets. Probation ended up putting me in drug court. I struggled to get clean. I tried to kill myself. Westcare got me in rehab. I was there for 77 days. I was in the newspaper, but when I got out, I had some relapse behaviors. Fighting, getting caught at the casino, was kicked out of the Diamond House, and was moved to Kingman. Something clicked. I didn't want to live like that anymore, and now I have my daughters full-time. My relationships are being repaired. I am employed full-time. Life is good. I just want to thank everyone that never gave up on me and saw my potential. Thank you.
Okay, she ran out of here quick. And that is for you as well.
Thank you.
Good job. Well, these speeches are tough acts to follow. A few more comments and observations. We have some clients that are pretty new to the program that are struggling. And again, I'm not going to point them out. They know who they are. I want to point out a theme. You just listened to 4 successful graduates of the program. What did they all have in common? There's probably a lot they had in common, okay, with respect to their work ethic, their determination. Each one of our graduates either spent time in a sober living environment and or residential treatment. And I want to point that out because it seems like every week or two we have a discussion with somebody that the team believes needs that extra support and they think they can go it alone. And most of the times we can't. We can go it alone. We shouldn't have to go it alone. And so I just wanted to point out, if your goal is to succeed, model your behavior after the ones that have succeeded. And the paths of these 4 graduates at some point went through either residential treatment and or sober living. Just, again, an observation. I mentioned you shouldn't have to go it alone, and you really can't go it alone to succeed. The same is true for this program. And so I want to thank, first of all, some of the brass or leadership that has believed in this program that makes it possible. We have our probation chief, Alan Palomino, here today. Thank you. And although he couldn't be here today, our presiding judge, Steve Moss, has been a supporter of this program, actually a guest speaker at our graduations in the past. He couldn't be here. He does wish the graduates success, and we appreciate his support. But again, this is a unique program. It's not like a typical sort of court hearing or court system. We rely on teamwork for the success of the program. And I'll apologize up front. I'm probably going to forget a couple of the stakeholders and team members, but this would not be possible without the participation, dedication, and cooperation of agencies like Southwest Behavioral Health, Mojave Mental Health, West Care, Community Medical Services, Catholic Charities, agencies like Arizona at Work, DCS, the Sheriff's Office, the Probation Department, and I'm already losing track. Again, I apologize if you were not named, but we just appreciate all of our partners. Revive was one, and that's been mentioned today also. If I neglected to mention you, I apologize. I'm kind of going off script here, but here's the segue leading into some of my closing comments. This program does wonderful things, right? And it's because we have a team, and any success is because of the team that we've assembled. And I've mentioned this before in my personal life, and most of the people I know, any accomplishments that they've made, they didn't do it alone. They did it because they had support, okay? Anything that's been accomplished that, at least in my personal life, that's worth anything, in my opinion, was because I had support. And I had a lot of people willing to dedicate their lives for my life to so that I could improve and reach farther. See, I knew I forgot to mention someone. The attorneys. We've got attorneys on each of our teams. A couple of them are here. David Martinez, I saw. Debbie Liverance also. I'm not sure if, is Mr. Wemmel here? But Heather Wellborn, Russell Wemmel, to name a few, we really appreciate our attorneys' involvement in our programs. And I think that's raised the level of excellence for our programs also. But anyway, back to the need for a team. Here's the thing, you're in recovery, right? And if I recall correctly, the last phase of recovery is maintenance, right? Yeah. So here's the thing, it's not like a car loan where you make your last payment and it's over. Recovery, in my opinion, is just another word for life. You're living your life, and how do you live your best life? How do you hold yourself accountable? But again, remember, you're in maintenance, especially for our graduates. You're in maintenance. That implies that it requires action on your part. You need to care for your recovery. You need to maintain it. And I would respectfully suggest that you not forget or turn your back on what helped you achieve this level of success so far. Whether it's sober support meetings, whether it's staying engaged with the Revive alumni group or intensive outpatient meetings at Mojave Mental Health or Southwest or West Care. Maintain those connections. You shouldn't have to go it alone. Going back to our speaker today, Jacqueline did not do this all on her own. Again, her dedication and work was phenomenal, but she had help, and that's the way it's supposed to be. We're going to have kind of a brief memorial of sorts, and we're going to talk a little bit about Katie Spaulding. There she is. Katie passed away last month, and I've been a recovery court judge for 10 years. This is the second graduate that we've lost, and we don't know the full story yet, but it would appear that it was the result of a relapse. And what really just sort of, I think, shakes us all to the core, those of us on the team, is you wonder, after all this hard work, why didn't she reach out? Because she knows where the help is, right? And our graduates today, you know where the help is. And again, hopefully you don't lose sight of that. I will say this, I mean, once you graduate and leave this program, because all of you sitting in here will eventually be out of this program, hopefully through successful graduation, or maybe unsuccessfully, but you'll be left to your own devices to a certain extent to hold yourself accountable. Don't lose sight of the supports that you have. I am willing to bet any team member that I work with, and myself included, if you have a problem, come talk to us. Any one of us would drop what we're doing and try and help you, okay? Even if you're off probation. Probation officers, sort of like me, love to see people once in a while, okay? Just to see how you're doing. Just yesterday, I had a, well, formerly juvenile client who was in our health and wellness court stop by and see me. This was just on Monday this week. And he turned 18, he aged out, and he's doing well. And it was great to see him. And I hope he continues to stop by once in a while. But again, if you find yourself struggling, first of all, hopefully you notice the warning signs. But if you find yourself heading towards a crisis, reach out, for God's sakes. You shouldn't have to go it alone. And you don't have to go it alone. You know, I'm going to take a page out of Christopher's playbook and maybe cuss a little bit, because I don't know if it's a generational thing or just a pride thing, but I remember being raised with this bullshit notion that to ask for help is a sign of weakness. And again, that is ridiculous. And this is a program where hopefully you've learned that actually asking for help is encouraged, and it's a sign of strength. It means that you are setting aside your pride and you're acknowledging, I don't have all the answers, or I can't do this on my own, I need some help. And there's no shame in that. And that is actually a sign of tremendous strength. And we hope all of our graduates have achieved that, and we hope they don't lose sight of that. If you need help, we're here for you. Again, our heart breaks for Katie and her loved ones, her friends. And I think I would just close with this. I would hope that you would consider honoring Katie by living your best life. And you would honor Katie by learning and reaching out. And again, remember, this path going forward, it's not a journey where you walk alone. You walk with support, and you have all of us as your support going forward. So again, thank you for listening to me. I think that just about concludes our program. Susan, thank you and your officers for all of your hard work as well. And again, please stick around if you want photos. There's some cool backdrops for photos with your friends and loved ones, and there is cake upstairs. So thank you all, and congratulations to our graduates. Restrooms are down the hall.